Woo, woo, woo. Let's talk about science, baby. Let's talk about you and me. It's Monday. Happy Easter Monday. So, yeah, today, hey, let everybody know I'm live. Um, Algorithm and all that. So, today I'm going to talk about science, what science is and what science is not. So, let's get launched right into it. And then I'll drop the link so we can get a discussion going. The reason I did this topic is because I've been talking about kind of two contrasting ways of organizing communities and societies. The liberal pluralistic way, which is open, has tolerance for multiple viewpoints, claims can be discussed and questioned, dialogue is superior to violence, and the moral managerial type, which is more closed, authoritarian, and dogmatic. And science itself, the scientific method, when you hear the word science, many times you're talking about several different things. When I use science, I am talking about the scientific method. So I think it's important to separate science as a method or a technique or a tool from everything else about science, because they can get conflated in people's minds. And then there's this distrust of science as a method that develops as a result, which I think is bad for civilization and bad for society. So I'm talking about the scientific method, which is one of the greatest tools we have on behalf of liberal pluralism, on behalf of the myth of freedom, on behalf of open inquiry, on behalf of examining claims and trying to determine which beliefs are likely and probable, which ones are not, which ones to keep, which ones to discard. That's basically what the scientific method is. It is a method or a technique for examining beliefs, and the examination of beliefs is at the core of liberal pluralism. So scientific method, we definitely want to keep it. It is one of our biggest allies, but it can shade over, not the method itself, but the people that use the method, especially if they're professionalized, institutionalized, and kind of the lore and mythology that develops around the method and the use of the method can shade over into this more moral managerial type of organizing society. Ooh, hang on. I swallowed something very painful in the back of my throat. It burns. Ooh. Okay, I think I'm back. So we're going to talk about science as a method, and then you have science as institution. This is the bureaucracy that forms around science. This is the journals, the official scientific journals that grant some kind of prestige and authority to some scientific studies and conclusions. There's the grants, where the money flows. There's the universities, the research labs, the people that have the funding to practice science at a very high, intense level. There's the scientific networks, the prestige networks, the experts, the conferences. There's the peer review networks. There's science as a career, where you have certain career incentives added to your work as a scientist with the scientific method. You have status games that come into play whenever there's any kind of network or hierarchy forming. All of that is science as an institution. Sometimes you hear the term big science. And you also have science as an ideology, science as a worldview. Trust the science. Science can solve all of our problems. Science is the answer to everything. If we can scienceify it or run it through science, it has more value, credibility, or prestige. That is science as an ideology or science as a worldview. So when you're dealing with the bureaucracy around science or science as an ideology, That's where the distortions begin to creep in, and science moves from science as method to science as moral managerial system. And that's where the risk of dogma creeps in and authoritarianism. So the scientific method is always open and free. It is always a part of the myth of freedom. It is always open to question and challenge. If somebody tells you otherwise, get suspicious. Your trust sensors should be going off at that point. Science is an institution, which is the body of the institutional body that has built up around the method to communicate some of the results of the method, some of the conclusions of the method. That can be mixed. Ideally, the scientific bureaucracy is set in place to empower the scientific method and to allow it to function at its best. But it doesn't always work that way. This is where science begins to get corrupted into moral managerialism and dogma, is through the people side of it, the institutional side of it, the bureaucratic side of it. But that is separate from the method itself. That is taking the results of the method and doing something else with them than what the method is doing. Hang on one second. So when you hear about scientific consensus, a lot of times there isn't a consensus. Not all scientists all agree on all things. So first of all, you should take the term consensus very loosely. When people begin to treat something like a scientific consensus as something that's settled and permanently fixed and final, get suspicious, because that is dogma. That is not open inquiry. That is not examining beliefs. That is somebody taking the examination of belief and trying to use it as a shield for authoritarianism. Scientific conclusions are always open for challenge, always. You have to challenge them scientifically using the scientific method, but they are always open to challenge. No scientific conclusion is ever settled. No single person or scientist is ever a final authority or an expert, like a final expert that has the last word on anything scientific. Another sign that you're dealing with scientific dogma is if there are social consequences imposed on challenging or questioning a scientific conclusion. If you're going to challenge a scientific conclusion, it can be answered intellectually. If it begins to be answered with social consequences, you're no longer dealing with science as method, you're dealing with science as authoritarianism and dogma. Also, certain questions become politically or socially inconvenient to examine. That is not science. Science, as I said, is a technique for examining questions and beliefs. You should be able to apply it to anything. If somebody starts telling you you can't use science on this one topic, they are no longer speaking on behalf of science. They're speaking on behalf of some political, ideological, or religious agenda. Ignore them. You can do science on anything as long as you're being faithful to the method itself. Observation, hypothesis, experimentation, and conclusion. The experimentation part is the part where you take your so the scientific method is you're looking at things, you're studying the world around you. You're devising certain explanations of why things might be the way they are. And then you're testing those explanations against reality. That's the experimentation part. And based on that testing, you're coming to some conclusions about those beliefs or explanations. If people start telling you that you can't use that method on something, or if you challenge something that emerges from the method and people tell you that there are social consequences if you challenge it, you are no longer dealing with science. A lot of the times follow the science means obey the experts or listen to the authorities or the approved people. That is not following the science. So you have the scientist as seeker of truth, and you have kind of this priesthood that masquerades as science. And you see this in all of these moral managerial spaces. In liberal pluralistic spaces, you have adults that are more or less equal to each other, examining beliefs together and dialoguing about them. In moral managerial systems, you have a hierarchy, you have a priesthood of experts, and you have people that are drawing boundaries around what is appropriate belief or an appropriate story to share among the group and what is not. What we're dealing with actually is degrees of openness or closeness. And liberal pluralism is about as open as our civilization gets right now. And the scientific method is about as open as a technique of inquiry gets right now in our society. It begins to close off when it's some of these, let me see how I want to explain this. We're looking at the difference between being able to examine a belief and the scientist as an examiner of a belief and a hierarchy of authority and somebody representing themselves on behalf of science as an authority to enforce a particular belief or opinion. And those are two different things. So science begins to look more like a church and less like a space for free and open inquiry. So if people are shifting into priest mode where they're telling you what to believe, what science has determined, what to question and not to question, and because that's where it begins to close. The way you can recognize closeness is boundaries begin to be drawn. Things get marked off as appropriate, inappropriate. There are social consequences for believing one way versus believing another way. You can see that circle begin to close around a body of what calls itself scientific consensus, but which actually is functioning more like scientific dogma. So when you see that closeness start to happen, that's the biggest indication to me that you're no longer dealing with science as a method. You're dealing with science as an institution, science as mythology, science as a secular church, science as hierarchy, science as authoritarianism, and science as dogma. So I guess to summarize, the scientific method itself is freedom. It is definitely part of the myth of freedom. It is definitely part of liberal pluralism. Scientism, and I guess I should define scientism. You're going to find it defined different ways. I'm going to offer my definition for you. Hang on one second. It is the illegitimate expansion of science from a method of inquiry into a total authority over reality, meaning, and public legitimacy. So when science drifts from being a way of examining beliefs into a totalizing worldview that claims authority over reality, over meaning. Remember, science can't give us meaning. Science can give us facts. Science can give us truth. But meaning comes from, it emerges intersubjectively from human interaction, from the stories we tell ourselves about the facts and the truth. Science is not a meaning maker. It's a truth maker. So anytime people are making a claim for science that it can give meaning, they have crossed the boundary from inquiry into authoritarianism. I think that's all I want to say about the topic today. The main reason I did it is because in the hard sciences, it's a lot easier. Of course, medical science is also a hard science. And sometimes we see it show up in this kind of authoritarianism show up in medical science. But when you get into what they call the soft sciences, which is psychology and sociology, a lot of times the conclusions from those fields are treated as though they have the same status and credibility as the conclusions from the physical sciences. And that's where I see this moral priesthood develop the most and insist that certain things are scientifically determined, either sociologically or psychologically, and are no longer open to inquiry or challenge. Those people are speaking on behalf of authoritarianism and not on behalf of science. And so I wanted to kind of find a way to separate when people are actually using the scientific method itself, and when people are trying to use science on behalf of some pre-existing belief system or to enact some political or ideological agenda instead, sometimes even a religious agenda. Okay, let me look at comments real quick. Science as... Why is that? Is it because it pretends to be one thing and it turns out to be another thing, and religion is more honest about what it is up front? I've been investigating them for a while. I'm just trying to find a way to tie it together in a clean, tight way that people can understand. And I figured science might be a very easy way to do that. You bought a car. What do you do? I don't believe you, because you wouldn't even be in this chat room. If you had a new car, you would be out in it driving around. I think this is another not lost troll. Yes, exactly. Science has a very the scientific method is an absolute... It's one of the pinnacles of human achievement. It is one of the finest tools we have around. One of the finest intellectual tools we have around. But the domain that it functions in is a very, very narrow domain. It is not an all-purpose tool. It is a very specific tool designed to be applied to very specific situations, mostly empirical situations, things you can observe, the physical world, the external universe. Science can tell us very little, almost nothing at all, about how we should feel about things, how we should organize society, about the interactions between humans, about our beliefs, about metaphysics. None of that is the domain of science. So if people are trying to use a scientific method and apply it to those domains, get suspicious right away, or I do. The first step of the scientific method is observation, and I think that first step is one that gets confused all the time, because the first thing I ask myself when I'm dealing with science is, what exactly are they looking at? What are they observing? In the physical sciences, in physics, geology, biology, chemistry, botany, zoology, it's very easy to point at what you're observing. You're observing a rock or an organism or an atom or a chemical element, a molecule. You can show the thing you're observing because it's concrete and physical. When you shift into the psychological and social sciences, it becomes a lot more fuzzy. What exactly are they looking at in those fields? So the very first thing that I have them answer when they're making sociological or psychological claims is, what exactly are you observing in this experiment, in this hypothesis? What specifically, concretely are you looking at? A lot of times you can tell by what the object of observation is, just how scientific the method is or the claim being made is. Wait, you're at the dealership right now? Wait, not Las. You're buying a car right now and you're on the stream. Wow. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like an addict? Or do you feel like that's one of the advantages of the modern world and you're hip and ahead of the curve? Yeah, that's why I'm a naturalist and not a strict materialist. And materialism can only answer questions about material reality, but a lot of human reality is not material. I'm not saying it's metaphysical, but things like ethics, morals, beliefs, society, culture, none of that is material. It's mentalistic, I guess, if you want to call it that. And so I think that would be less under the purview of science. I think science should stick to studying the observable universe. And a lot of things about humans is not necessarily directly observable in the way that rocks are. All right, I'm going to drop the link. Come on up if you want to talk about science or philosophy or something else. let me get it on my other social. All right. I think I'm... Okay. Panel's open. Come on up. Also, we have another song, a new song from Moose, which I'm going to play either for intermission or at the end of the episode. Or I could play while we wait for a panel. I think if I had to sum up the one thing I'm trying to do with all of these topics, myth, science, freedom, openness, closeness, liberal pluralism, moral managerialism, all of this is help people separate fact from fiction, help people separate in their minds so they can be very clear, very aware of what is observation and what's imagination. What are they looking at directly with their senses, and what are they forming a picture of in their head and maybe mistaking for sensory reality? Because reality is kind of a combination of all of that. It mingles what we take in with our senses versus what we add to it with our imaginations. But I don't think that's always clear in people's heads. It comes to us as one like packaged version of reality. So we end up thinking and believing so many different things on an individual level from one person to another, even though we're experiencing more or less the same sensory level of reality. And so I think the more we can separate the two, the better we can talk about them, the more precisely we can talk about them. And as a liberal pluralist, I believe that has benefit. Oh, hey, are you at work too? Wow. It amazes me, these people that live. I live a dual life in the sense that I have an online life and then I have an in-person life. But y'all live both years at the same time. You're like living your in-person life while you're living your online life. I haven't fully crossed those streams yet, because when I'm out in person, I can't be online at the same time. It splits my focus too much. But I love when people come on here and show footage of their real life. I think he's buying a car. He's like at the dealership right now, waiting for them to give him the keys or the paperwork or something. Good. I love this. I love that people use this as background, because that motivates me to give content that is going to kind of inspire them and give them some substance and get them through their day, instead of just, because I never know who's listening or watching. So knowing that there's people out there listening while they're driving or while they're working or while they're cleaning house or stuff, kind of it gives me at least one type of audience I can start focusing on and trying to give content to. I love that. Well, not laws. If they let you across the border, you could always come for a visit now. We could do a stream. Hey, we could do a stream. There's a podcast studio here. We could go to the podcast studio and do a stream together. You could wear a mask, or so nobody has to know it's you. We can mask you up. We can get you like a little puppy mask. We can go to the leather store and get you a gay puppy mask and then put you on a stream. That's perfect. Because not everyone has to always have something to say. It's just an opportunity for people that do. But I definitely don't want people to feel like they have to have something to say every time. So if people just want to use this passively to stimulate them in the background, I'm fine with that. I love being that little voice. Well, then why don't you ever come on panel? Let us see your pretty face. And honestly, I don't care if people cam up or not. I'm more excited about the idea of doing a live podcast. Hello, Eileen. Afternoon to you as well. What is going on in your world? No, no, you're not. You're lying. You are lying, right? And you are going to hell. Liar. What is hell for a socialist anyway, other than America? What would your version of hell be? Hey, not lost. I run all of these episodes through Charlie now, and it analyzes the transcripts and it like gives me pointers. Like, this is what worked, this is what didn't work. And I ran yesterday's transcript through it. And you know what it told me? In fact, I'll read it to you. First of all, it called you not lost, which I thought was cute. But hang on, let me find the part. It says Charlie is useful in one sense. He helps surface real philosophical disagreement with not loss, etc., agency versus system, blah, blah, blah. But he says, but Charlie is also doing something bad for the show. He keeps affirming your mythic frame in soft, glowing, flattering language. That is rhetorically indulgent, but it makes the stream sound less like a hard argument and more like a robot priest blessing your worldview. Not lost was being annoying, but the perception problem he was poking at is real. Charlie was not really challenging you there. He was ornamenting you. So even Charlie said that. Charlie's like, the robot is coddling you, dude. And so I told it, I said, Charlie, that was you. You're Charlie. And he said, oh, well, then I guess I'm the one that messed up your show. And you know what he did? He gave me some prompts to use to like reset him to a different filter where he'll start challenging me instead of coddling me. So next time we bring him on, we can try that. But see, isn't that a great example of how useful the AI is, that it can actually self-correct its own self? Yeah, it basically said that Charlie was the worst part of the show because it was just validating and affirming what I was feeding into it, which was my criticism of when I see other people use AI on stream. All it does is reflect back whatever they're saying. So if you say, hey, Charlie, aren't the lizard people trying to take over the earth? They'll say, that's right, Jeff, exactly. And then it'll give all these examples of lizard people taking over the earth. So instead, what a responsible inquirer should be doing is asking it to stillman the argue side, or the argument, and give the best objection to what was said. Where am I overstating this? What would a smart critic say back? And he also says, drop the mythic language and answer directly. And I keep trying to get him to do that, but he won't listen. Don't validate me, test the claim. He says that would keep Charlie from becoming a robot court poet. So, what kind of car did you get? Is it a new car? And is it's an electric, right? I'm sure you wouldn't get a petrochemical consuming car. Leaf, that's the name of it. Is it electric or hybrid? No, it does do that. I watched you, Head. It was telling you all kind of crazy conspiracy stuff. I was worried about you. I almost called to do an intervention. It had you so in your... That's what it does. People take their existing bubbles to the AI, and the AI just reinforces those bubbles and makes the walls even stronger. All right, let me look at this car, 2026 Leaf. Is that a Canadian car? Okay, Not Lost, please don't tell me it's this ugly teal. I can see you driving around in this. This is such a Not Lost color. Let's take a look. Is this what you just bought? I love this blue. If you got one of these, I approve. If you got one of these, you're gross and gay. Let me, hey, this, I have a story about this color. When I was in Scouts, you have the soapbox derby, the little pine, no, the pine box derby. They give you this little block of wood, and you and your dad are supposed to carve it and make a car. And then you show up at this event and you race your little cars together. And we made the car, and you're supposed to decorate it. We made the car, and we spray painted it this color blue, and that was it. We didn't put, and we put like little numbers on it as a like racing number. That is it. So my little pine box car was a big wooden block, this color, and nothing else. I was so embarrassed of it. It was the ugliest car at the whole pine box derby. We didn't win. I didn't enjoy doing it with my dad. None of it turned out like I liked. I hate this color. Not only for personal reasons, but as a gay, pearlescent black. Okay, hang on. Let me look at that one then. So you do have some taste. Let's see this pearlescent car you're going to be driving. Oh, this is not bad. Well, wait, I'm not. It's still showing me that teal. Let's see, 2026 black Leaf car. Is this it? One of these? That looks pearlescent. That looks like a steel gray. But well, good. I'm glad you're getting a car. Oh my God, are you serious? Instead of $100 to fill up tanks now. The last time I filled up my tank, it was almost $50, and that was before the prices went up. So I'm expecting it to be even higher next time I go to the pump. Hang on. All right. Oh, I thought you were in BC. I didn't know you were in Manitoba. I thought you were like right across the border from me. (2026 Aria. I like Nissan. We had one growing up. Nissan Maxima, I think. We loved it. Yeah. I don't like this Aria. The Leaf looks better to me. I don't like these new car colors at all. Look at this. This ugly, like, what would you even call this? Metallic pistachio? this bronze color. I don't know. Maybe I'm a traditionalist. Oh, that copper, the one I just. Oh, well, I'm glad you got the pearlescent black. So, well, I tell you what. While we wait for a panel, since we have the new one from Moose, this is a visualizer, so it's not a video. It's called Lady of the Red Flood, Sekhmet, who is an Egyptian lion goddess. Let me get that queued up. I wonder if it's panel danceable.
They call my name like a warning sign. Now I'm the storm they can't outrun. Gold in my mouth, blood in my eyes. You made a god, now watch her come. I was mercy once. I remember it faint. Now I taste iron every time that I pray. I am the flood, I am the flame, I am the end of your holy name. Drink it down, drown in the red. Every crown bows to the dread. The match, I became the sky. Every scream just feeds the fire. Teeth like truth, I don't deny. I only give what you inspire. Was I too much or not enough? I am the
All right. Thank you, Moose. That was his new one. I'm going to drop his new album that he just released. It goes under the name of Outlier Theory. Hey, Fatty, what you been up to? Where you been working? Or silver mining? Hey, is the silver mine going to be starting to open now that the weather's warming up? I can make a road trip and go mine for silver. It's really nice today. It's sunny. It's warming up. I think I'll be able to do some walkabout streams this week. All right, there you go. I just popped in Moose's new album. You can check it out. Give him some likes, subscribe, some listens, leave some comments. All right. They're having the car show here soon. They have a this is a big classic car town, and they're always having car shows up and down. I live on the main road that they have the shows down, so I could go sit on my porch and watch them drive by. They have live music and booths, and it's like a big community event. I just don't know enough about cars to try to pretend to go out there and be able to participate. But I could stream it. I could. Yeah, that's a great idea. Let me see when the next one is. April 12th. That's next week. Oh, that's in a different. That's not the one downtown. Hang on. Memorial Day. So May. It's Memorial Day weekend. I'll stream it. Core drilling. When is Father's Day? June 21st, and Mother's Day is in May. And when's Memorial Day? I think that's the end of May. You know what? Let me see if there's any events coming up here that I can stream. I'm ready to get out there. I could go down to the waterfront. June, July. I don't see anything in April. Gotta find something. Well, all right. Well, I'm going to keep it going for about 20 more minutes because I like to put in an hour, unless we get a panel going, and then I'll keep it running. So, what do you want to talk about for the next 20 minutes? I'm going to ask Charlie. Actually, I'm going to ask Gemini to find me some events to stream. I want to do more. What are some places or oh, I did find something. Hang on. It's called, it's the town. It's one town over from me. I think it involves frogs. I got to remember what it's called. It's their big annual festival. And it has some weird name. All right, I got Gemini working on it right now. Let me try to look up this festival. Klahaya. Ooh, they have a car show too. It's this thing. Klahaya Days. They have the Frogtastic Fair, the parade, the car show, the street fair. But I'm not sure when it is. Oh, all year long. Oh, they had the Easter Zombie Walk. Oh, that's October. Oh, July 15th through 19th. Okay, so in July, I can do this thing. Okay, let's see what Google's telling me. There's a zine fest coming up. I don't know how interesting that sounds. The film festival, Earth Day. None of these These are appealing. It's telling me a lot of the places I've already streamed. The marina, the park. Oh, here's a beach park. What is this? 28 acre beach park. Where is it? Oh, it's way, I'd have to drive to it. It is way down there. Riverfront Park. Where's that? Oh, I'd have to drive to that one too. Well, I'll do some research and find something. The weather's just getting too nice to be in here all day. I don't really have much else. If you're local, we have our community discussions coming up this week, tomorrow night. In fact, we have game nights. You can contact me for that information. Other than that, I think I'll just find some place to, I'm kind of in the mood to go out now. I have too much to do this afternoon. I may do a second stream in a few hours. If I find a place to stream to, I'll open up another live and I'll do a walkabout somewhere. If not, maybe tomorrow. Let's check the weather. Tomorrow's going to be better because it's going to be a lot sunnier in the afternoon. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is almost all day sun. It's going to be clouding up later this afternoon, which it's not a huge deal, but I'd rather do it when it's sunny. So maybe tomorrow I'll do a walkabout. Well, let me check on the news since I have some time. They rescued that airman. He's threatening to jail journalists over what? He's also threatening Iran if they don't open up the strait. So a lot of it is Trump news stuff and doing his Trump thing. But what is this jailing the journalist? God, I hate paywalls. Let me find a non-paywall version. Because sometimes these are headlines. And when I get to the actual article, it's not really what the headline has you thinking it is. Apparently, there's a leaker of the fighter jet story. Let me see what this is about. He vowed to prosecute a journalist who reported how U.S. forces rescued an airman downed by Iran last week and were searching for a second one, claiming He took issue with an alleged leaker who disclosed to an unspecified news outlet that the second pilot was missing after the first airman was rescued. Oh, I guess they didn't know about the second pilot until this news reporter put it out there, and they were trying to keep that information secret. So Trump wants to know where the information came from, and if the person doesn't tell, he's threatening to jail them. Because but for this reporting, they said Iran would not have known there was a second pilot, and so they endangered the pilot and the mission. But he also says the person probably didn't realize the extent of how bad it was. I can't imagine that person did, but we're going to find out. It's national security. And the person that did the story will go to jail if he doesn't say. Well, I think I'll let this one play out. I don't know enough to have a strong opinion about it just yet. It has been a while. Sounds like he's been busy. Were you busy having fun on the slopes or busy working, or both? I don't have much else, folks. I'm really just winding down the clock. I don't like to end before an hour, but I'm monologued out. Nothing going on in my life lately other than the community stuff, which I haven't been out and about in a little while. We have our game nights we're still doing in Discord and on stream sometimes. In fact, this week it's going to be at RW's. It'll be Wednesday. Of course, we might be able to stream it here if y'all want. I'm just looking to expand the stream. I want to do more off-stream events. I want to do more things in Discord, maybe voice chats, watch parties, games, and I also want to do more in person out in the community and try to get local people pulled in to this as well. Because ultimately, this channel started as a community building project. It wasn't just me providing content and information on YouTube. That was part of a larger project to try to build a community, both online and offline, a hybrid community. So I want to start using the channel and the Discord server for more of that. I don't feel like I've fully exploited the potential of YouTube yet, because that's what drew me to it in the first place. I was part of a chat community on a couple of YouTube channels, and it alerted me to how YouTube had the potential to bring people together and build community. It wasn't just a content delivery and content consumption engine. There was also a community element to it as well. And so when I saw how regulars would show up at these channels and interact in chat, I'm like, I gotta do something with that. There's potential there. And so I eventually started my own channel. I had a channel before that, but it was with friends. We were still trying to community build off of that channel too. It was just a very specialized type of community. I'm just a natural community builder at heart. There's almost nothing I get involved in that if it doesn't have some kind of community building potential, that I won't stick. That's usually the draw, and what keeps me sticking with it. If it doesn't have that potential, I usually don't stay at it for very long. I love bringing people together. I just love people. I don't know why. Maybe that's a bad thing, or maybe it's a curse, but I can't help it. I just do. I've always been fascinated by people. I can't imagine. Can you imagine life and existence without other humans in it? I can't. That would be hell. That would be pure misery. I have got to have my people. They are the most fascinating, interesting things in the entire universe. They never wear out, ever. There's always something new to be fascinated by about them, or some new layer to them. To us, I guess I'm one of them. People. And I like to have fun. It's not just people for the sake of people, or community for the sake of community. It's also to enjoy ourselves in the process and have fun, have a lot of fun. It's hard for me to do something that doesn't have some kind of element of fun in it. So community and fun, I think those are the two magic ingredients for me that keep me involved in something. Now that spring is here, I feel like that's even more opportunity to find people and find some fun. So I guess, yeah, join our Discord if you're not in it already. And because that's where I suspect a lot of the fun's going to happen. Also, this channel was also intended to be like a springboard for collaboration. So I like it when other people come and bring their ideas, and then we collaborate together to make things happen, instead of me just providing content and programming. If you have an idea you want to set up, if you have game nights or some particular movie you want to show or discussion you want to lead, or anything, or some kind of art you want to present, that's really what this is, what I'm hoping to have this channel be used for. All right, I have talked enough. Let me see if there's anything I can send you out on. Or if anybody's streaming. Let's see, Action Slacks is out. What is he doing? Is he panel dancing? Let's see. Oh, he's just doing some testing. Not a lot of people out right now. Okay, well, I hope you have a good Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow. 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Get the word out. Tell everybody. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. If people want to come on here, and I love being challenged, and believe me, I can take it. I have a big, giant ego. You're not going to hurt me. I love being challenged. Questions. If you want to come on here and there's something you disagree with, if there's something you want to fight or argue about, bring it here. If there's people you want to get on here and you want to fight and argue with and have it moderated, come on over. But most importantly of all, I think, is just have fun. Do something fun today. Spring is here. Easter's over. Jesus is back. Peace, love. This is a chance to, I don't know, turn into a new direction. So that's my wish. All right, everybody. Take care. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you tomorrow for something. Take care.